we have some TV numbers for week 1 of the UFL season. And folks, it's really, really good. I'm shockingly impressed. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared and I representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking the TV ratings for week 1 of the 2024 UFL season. It seems like this league is going to survive based on the strength of its television viewership and how many people watch. That seems to be the theme with a lot of these spring football leagues, how many people are going to watch it, and the numbers look really, really promising after 1 week. The average across all 4 games, 1.048 million viewers. So 7 figures is the average across all 4 games. The report coming from Nielsen, and this tweeted out by Mike Mitchell, a reporter covering the UFL. If you want to look at the numbers for the individual games, the Saturday game between the Birmingham Stallions and the Arlington Renegades, the battle between the XFL champ and the USFL champ, 1.181 million on average. The second game between the Battlehawks and the Panthers, 1.349 million. And then Sunday on ESPN, you had DC playing San Antonio, 960,000. And the lowest rated game of the day between Memphis and Houston going up against the Duke NC State game, 703,000 viewers. So an average of over 1 million viewers for the opening week of the UFL season. And this is really, really good. And I am very, very proud of these numbers. And it's a good sign for the league to come in terms of stability. For some comparison, last year, on this weekend for the XFL, competing against the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, the average audience across the 4 games was 635,000. That was it. So this is 400,000 higher than the average last year for the XFL, competing against the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. I would say that week 1 is different from week 6, but not really, because this is not a new league. The novelty of spring football has completely worn off. People who are watching the UFL are watching because they're genuine fans and they just want to watch football. You're not watching because, oh, there's a new league, I want to watch this, and you want to see like the new rules and everything. There's nothing really new that you didn't see last year. There's nothing novel about this. It's not like when the XFL came back in 2020. You basically have a fan base at this point. You have a fan base at this point that is going to watch the games and is going to watch spring football. They're either in or they're out at this point. And the ratings going up by a ton compared to last year for this weekend is really good, especially because by that argument of saying, oh, well, it's week 1, you can't take too much stock to week 1. Come on. Look at the USFL ratings for week 1 of 2023. In 2023, for week 1 for that league, no game broke 1 million viewers. Not a single one. The average audience for week 1 of the USFL season last year was 789,000. So even by that logic, even by the logic of, well, it's week 1, wait until what happens, people are going to stop watching after 1 week. Even by that logic, it doesn't add up, because there were more viewers that watched this year by a lot, I should say, on average by over 300,000 than there were for week 1 of the USFL season. For some perspective, the average ratings for the USFL in 2023 were 601,000. For the XFL in 2023, you were looking at 622,000. Now, the lowest rated game for week 1 in terms of the viewership, according to Nielsen, was that Memphis-Houston game at just over 700,000. Not a single game in week 1. What that means is not a single game in week 1 was below the average for either of the leagues last year or anywhere near it, which is really, really encouraging. There is some stability here. There is a lot of stability in terms of the viewers they're going to get on a week-to-week basis. Now, obviously, there's a question of what happens in week 2, because look at last year. We saw week 1 for the XFL draw 1.3 million. Week 2 drew 659,000, so a 50% decrease there. Obviously, you don't want to see that. That would not be good. USFL, there wasn't that decrease because, again, the novelty wasn't there because it was the second year of the USFL versus the first year. So there's not really any novelty there. You know what you're getting at this point. Now, there are some pros and cons to week 2. The pro is that you have a game on ABC for the first time. The con is that you don't have a doubleheader on the same network like last time. There's going to have to be some channel hopping between the networks. So Saturday, you could just tune into Fox the whole day. Sunday, you could just tune into ESPN the whole day. That was the thing for week 1. For week 2, it's a bit different. They're all on different networks, all on different times, and there's no direct doubleheader. On top of that, you're competing directly against the men's Final Four for the game between the Renegades and the Battlehawks. That game is at 8 o'clock Eastern. You're pretty much going up against the end of the first game and the start of the second game. And you're competing directly against the Women's National Championship in the game between the Houston Roughnecks and the DC Defenders. and that game could be a ratings juggernaut, especially if I was playing in it. Caitlin Clark, obviously we saw what happened with Iowa LSU. Over 12 million viewers. It was the most watched women's game of all time, and that was for the Elite Eight. So if Iowa makes the championship and they play South Carolina, you might be looking at 18, 19, 20 million viewers. It's going to be one of the biggest rated games in the history of women's sports. It's going to be incredible to watch. But what I'm saying is that you're definitely going to expect the ratings to go down somewhat for those two games. Renegades, Battlehawks, Roughnecks, Defenders, I would not expect a whole lot. And those games are going to be on over-the-air television, and the other games are on cable, and obviously cable games draw less than over-the-air games because it's easier to watch over-the-air versus cable. So I would not expect the ratings to be super strong for Week 2 compared to Week 1. If I had to guess, I would say the average for Week 2, I would say 750,000, maybe 800,000, which, yeah, that might seem disappointing on the surface, but that would be really, really good. For some comparison, last year, Week 7 of the XFL season was the week competing against the men's Final Four and the women's basketball national championship. And the average for that was 350,000. And I would be absolutely stunned based on the numbers we got from Week 1 if the UFL drew anywhere near 350,000 for this week. I think the ratings are going to be pretty solid. They're not going to be Week 1 good. If they can average over 7 figures, that would be incredible. I'm not expecting that on this weekend. I mean, we'll see times where they could get over 7 figures as the season goes on, when there's less competition, when you're competing against not a whole lot. Obviously, this is a huge weekend for sports, especially on the collegiate side. So you're going to be competing against a lot. But maybe next weekend with the Masters, you're not really competing against anything that's Saturday. Maybe Sunday, depending on how the leaderboard goes. NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, I don't think it's going to be a huge dent in the ratings. We didn't really see that with the USFL or the XFL last season, where that made a huge difference. So this is really the last big weekend the UFL has to dodge when it comes to the TV ratings. And I think they got a good chance to do it. At the very least, I think 750,000 is a solid baseline for what we can expect on average during Week 2. I don't think any games draw over 1 million, just because the two games on over the air are going up against the Final Four, the national championship on the women's side, and the two games on ESPN last week did not draw over 1 million. So I don't think we're going to see any games drawing over 1 million. We're not going to see an average of over 1 million. If we do get that, oh man, you got to be really encouraged if you're a UFL executive with that. But I think the numbers, very, very promising. Very, very promising on the UFL side for Week 1. I think you have to be very, very pleased with how this week went from an entertainment standpoint. A lot of cool plays, obviously. A lot of coverage with a Jake Bates 64-yard field goal. And you got to be really impressed with the TV ratings, because these are good numbers. These are really, really good numbers, and I'm not just saying that. I tell it like it is. These are really, really strong numbers, better than I felt we were going to get. And it's a really good sign for the league going forward in terms of its stability and in terms of the fact that there is an audience for this that is there for the long haul. It's not just for the novelty and then it dies off. It's there for the long haul. And we saw it with Week 1 with the TV numbers there. But what are your thoughts on these numbers? Do you think they're good numbers? Do you think they're bad numbers? How would you grade Week 1 of the UFL from a TV standpoint, from just any standpoint? And what do you think is going to happen in Week 2 from a TV standpoint? What do you think the highest rated game will be? Do you think the Final Four, the national championship on the women's side, will make any dent in the ratings? Do you think it's going to make no impact whatsoever? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of JJ9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. And we stream all the UFL games on that channel. So if you like my thoughts on the UFL, you want to see me do play-by-play and color commentary on the games, go check that channel out. When the games go live, we cover just about every single one of them. Until next time, Jaguar9 signing off. And as always, go Jags.